role model is Gordon Johnston, who happens to be my grandfather. I have had the pleasure of growing up with an amazing influence that has always been there for me. My grandfather was from London, England, and followed his brother to Canada with my grandmother in 1957. When in Canada, he definitely made an impression on a lot of people. Whether it was good or bad, he was always memorable. When people meet my grandfather, they had the fortune of him greeting them with a hug, kiss, saying their name incorrectly, and even sticking his tongue out at them in joking affection. He would affectionately call people love in his very strong British accent. My grandfather was always extremely outspoken in every and any situation. He believed strongly in comic relief. Throughout his life, my grandfather had many health issues, but every time he spent time in the hospital, the nurses always got a laugh out of the sexual banter with him, with my grandmother always rolling her eyes in embarrassment. In spite of all his health problems, he lived an amazing and fulfilling life. Something that everyone who knew my grandfather will always remember is when he dressed up as Santa Claus every Christmas for as long as he could. A family friend had asked him to play Santa for her kids when my mom was a teenager. Although my mom was mortified, everyone else would wave and smile as Santa Gord would drive by. My grandfather was quite entertaining when working in the garden as well. They had raccoon problems, so he acquired a trap from the C&E and would trap the raccoons and then take them in the trunk to the Morningside Park and let them loose. But before he let them loose, he would paint a blue circle on their bums. This was his scientific survey to see if they would come back to his house. After 11 blue bum captured raccoons, not one blue bum raccoon returned. Although always looking for a laugh and being funny, my grandfather always had a soft spot in his heart for my grandma. When thinking about my future, I like to hope that I will have a relationship like my grandparents. The thing that I and all of the other grandchildren will take with them is to always kiss their spouse 3 times before going to bed. That is the one thing that my grandfather did every night for 58 years. When in Canada, my grandfather had many jobs, most of them including construction, which gave him the opportunity to be on a building team for some of the very iconic buildings throughout Toronto, the biggest one being the CN Tower. Through the process of building CN Tower, every day my grandfather would bring home tape of the process they had made that day, and family and friends would always gather to watch the world's tallest freestanding structure being built. Another memorable job that everyone in my family thoroughly enjoyed was when my grandfather worked for the exhibition. He was part of the grounds crew, and throughout the year, with all the different events happening, he would always come home with items that, in his words, fell off a truck. No matter what the items were, him and the rest of the family always got a good laugh out of whatever it was. Not to mention the fact that most of the items are still in their basement collecting dust. Although my grandfather unfortunately passed away a few weeks ago, I still look up to him because he believed in living every day to its fullest potential. My grandfather always told me that if you want something bad enough, you will do anything to get it. Although my grandfather is sometimes inappropriate and often embarrassing in public, I was always honored to call him my grandfather, and looked forward to introducing him to friends. Until he took his fake teeth out, and then I was just embarrassed again. I hope you enjoyed being introduced to my role model, Gordon Johnston.